We
Hi.
made it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Let me fix this. All right. I think I'm ready for you. I hope.
Okay, good.
I hope
Yeah,
I know
sorry. I
something
had
about consent.
some difficulties with the live, but it's all good. It's all
Can you
good.
see me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm like, all right. Well, I'm ready when you are.
Yes. Okay. So, howdy. My name is Anna, and I'm a student worker at the LGBTQ Pride Center. And today I'm with, I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself and what
Oh,
you do and um, your
yeah.
pronouns.
So my name is Jasmin Jones, and I'm a health promotion specialist in the Office for Health Promotion. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And yeah, that's all you wanted to know, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And today we're going to be talking about consent, which is one of my favorite topics. Yes. So we're just going to get right in and with the first question and just kind of like explaining like what is consent?
Okay, so I'm going to give you all the university definition first because that's kind of my job. So according to our TAMU system policy, and my phone keeps going black, so I can see you and I'll keep talking, but if you see my hand, that's what I'm doing. So our system policy says that consent is a clear, voluntary, ongoing verbal and nonverbal agreement to engage in a specific sexual act. And so, yes, you're looking at me like, ooh, that's boring, right? But what it really means is that consent is ongoing, it's enthusiastic, it's willing, it's clear, and it's specific, as well as it's requested and it's granted, and it's continual. It's something that you have to get each step. It's also informed. So we're talking about contraceptive methods and when was the last time that you got tested for STIs? We're having all those conversations when we're thinking about consent. We're also talking about boundaries. So what are the things that I like and I don't like? And we're having those conversations. And so consent is really this basis of any healthy relationship, I would say. And so we can think about as friends, right? I'm not going to just go drive my friend's car without their consent. I'm going to ask them a question. It's a lot of times people are like, consent is so difficult. And it's like, it doesn't have to be friends. We can talk about it and figure it out. So yeah, that's consent in a nutshell. Did I answer your question?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
I know there's like many different definitions, and actually, I know I talked about this in class, and yeah, but I really like how you explained it. So yes. So I mean, that leads me to my second question, and that is, because you mentioned like, people think like consent is hard, and it's really pretty simple. But how can somebody ask about consent without being like awkward or like starting the conversation about it?
And so when we think about consent, it's important to know that it doesn't have to be awkward. It doesn't have to be weird. It doesn't even have to be really taboo. And so if we are engaging in, for example, sexual intercourse with someone, and, whether it's penetrative or not, whether it's touching, those types of things, include it in your foreplay. So do you like this? Does this feel good? Do you want me to touch you there? Maybe if you are engaging in the act, do you want me to go deeper? Do you want me to go faster? Do you want me to go? You're asking those questions and you're checking in. And it doesn't have to be so weird because nobody's going to say, do you want to have sexual intercourse with me right now? Like, that's not happening. And we know that's not happening. And so using the words that you and your partner understand. And so something about consent is that it has to be mutually understood between both partners. So if you and your partner are having a conversation and you know that if you say certain things that your partner's going to understand that, it's important. But I always tell people with a thumbs up, we know that thumbs up in America may mean one thing, but somewhere else it might mean something else. And so if you all aren't on the same page, that's where things become difficult. Also knowing that nonverbal cues, it's in our definition, and sometimes nonverbals play a role in consent. And so are you paying attention to your partner's body language? Do they seem engaged with you, or are they like laying there and they're not engaged, and they have tuned out? And so a part of getting consent is just making sure that they're still engaged and they're still enjoying the process. And so it doesn't have to be awkward. And then even when we think about boundaries with our partners, so Are we talking to our partners? Do we want to do anal? Do we not want to do anal? Do we, what are our levels? Because some people are like, nope, I don't want to do that ever. And some people are like, well, I guess I'll try it. And so you're even having those conversations too. And maybe that means that you all are sexting before you get together. And I think it's important to bring up sexting. My phone is ringing. I think it's important to bring up sexting because it happens and it's very common. And a lot of times students are like, well, am I supposed to do this? Am I not supposed to do this? Like, what? And so what I say about sexting or even sending nudes, because that happens, is that you got to get consent there too. So making sure that the person on the other end wants to receive or engage in that type of conversation or dialogue, because it's really, really important. And something else, in the state of Texas, if you send an unsolicited dick pic, I don't know if I should say that on live, but I already said it, you can get in trouble for that. Like, it's actually illegal in Texas. And so I always tell folks, like, don't do that, because you don't want to get in trouble. You literally do not want to get in trouble
Yes.
because you sent this unsolicited photograph to someone that did not want it. And when we think about our Snapchats and our Instagram, it makes it a lot easier for people to exchange pictures. But it's important that even with that, you're not sharing folks' pictures or their images. Back in the day, we had Tumblr. Some people may still know what Tumblr is, but Tumblr sometimes turned into like a porn website, and all you saw was people's nudes. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Do they have is there consent there? Did they want these images shared? And so that's something also to think about. And since we're talking about not making consent awkward, another is emojis. And so I encourage students, express yourselves. If you want to send the peach or the eggplant or whatever makes your body feel good, the driplets, the cat, but you still got to get consent when you get with the person. That's a great way to start the conversation. Maybe you're expressing what you need and want through text, but when you get together, you still have to have a conversation. Even if someone invites you over at 3 a.m., you still have to have a conversation. If you meet them on Tinder or Hinged or Jacked or Squirt, whatever it is, you still have to have a conversation, and make sure you're on the same page. And I know with students, they're like, well, if we're just hooking up, I don't want to have that conversation with them. And it's like, okay, take 3 minutes, figure out what you all like, don't like, what you all are willing to do. And as you're continuing to engage in this activity, check in and have those conversations. So, okay, I'm done with that.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of my friends have like actually asked that question. It's like, oh, like, how do I know? Like, can I just like go off of like, like nonverbal like language and things like that? But yeah, that pretty much explains how to ask about that. And I mean that goes with like the next question is like, do you have to like ask for consent every time, or is it something that is just like one and done?
So consent is something that you have to get each time. And a lot of people get upset when we tell them this because they're like, well, I'm married or I've been with this person for a long period of time. Why do I have to do this? And so it's important to know that you still have to get consent. And you still need to get consent from your partner. And maybe it looks different for you because you all know your boundaries, you know different things that you need, you know your wants, you know those types of things. And you're still having that conversation. So you're not coming home and just trying to sleep with your partner because, and they're sleeping. Or you're not forcing your partner to have sex with you because that's their duty or their obligation as your partner. And so really important to kind of understand that and make sure that you have to get consent each time, knowing that consent can also be withdrawn at any time. And I think it's important to talk about that. And that may be our next question, but it can be withdrawn at any time. And when you are in a relationship, you have to make sure that you're respecting someone's boundaries. And it is Domestic Violence Prevention and Awareness Month. And a lot of our survivors that experience that, they won't talk about sexual assault in the context of their relationship because they're like, well, it couldn't have happened, but it can actually happen in the relationship. And so yes, it has to be, you have to get it each time. In relationships, it may look a little bit differently, but you still have to engage in those conversations, pay attention to your partner.
Yeah, for sure. And that to me, like, it's very, very important. And going off of that, I guess the next question is just build on that is like, what if like my partner or the person that I am with does not want to respect like that boundary, like it doesn't want to respect, like, you know, like I do not consent, like what can I do?
So, what I would say, if your partner does not respect your boundaries or doesn't respect your no, that may be a person that you may not want to engage in sexual activity with, and you may not want to be in a relationship with them. And that's difficult though, right? Because maybe you love this person, maybe you care about this person, and so really thinking about what are safe things that I can do for myself. So, are you talking to your friends, a trusted friend or a trusted family member, or even reaching out to like a Phoebe's Home or Sark, and reaching out to a counselor to have a conversation about that? Because I could say right now, oh, well, you just don't need to be with that person, but it's not that easy. And so thinking about what are some safe things that I can do in this relationship, and knowing that consent doesn't exist when you're pressured, coerced, threatened. If there's deception there, this does not exist. Consent does not exist in that space. And so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like, since you did say like it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I know that this is like an issue that like, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, like, oh, well, like if you didn't consent, like, why did you stay with that person and things like that. But I know that's going off of my next question is like, what if like my partner doesn't like verbally consent and I'm unsure because like, they seem like they're into it, or, I'm unsure because of the behavior.
So if you are unsure because of the behavior, I would say, feeling free to reach out to maybe someone, a confidential resource. I would say myself, but I am not confidential at the university. But reaching out to someone and um, figuring out, the different things that you may want and need in a relationship, and also figure, I think something that I always encourage students to do is figure out their boundaries before they are in relationships, because a lot of our boundaries, they come about because something has happened. And so really practicing some good self-awareness as well within that, because it's really hard to just be like, don't be with that person, don't do this, or to put a specific title on it. I think each situation is different. Obviously, there are evidence-based uh, characteristics for a healthy relationship, an unhealthy relationship, an abusive relationship, as well as when consent is not present. But I think the more you learn and the more you have those conversations, it definitely helps for sure. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes, for
Okay.
sure. And I know self-thing is not very known. So if you can explain that a little bit, and the question is like,
Stilting?
is
You said
self-thing?
stilting, right?
Yes.
Okay. So stilting is this phenomenon that happens when a person removes a condom. I would say a condom or any type of barrier method during sexual activity, because we know everybody does not use an external condom. Some people may use an internal condom. So when a barrier method is removed during a sexual act, and it's removed without someone's consent. And so when you're having intercourse, it's important that you're having conversations about, are we using barrier methods? What are the things that we're using? And so if a person removes a barrier method without your consent, you know, your consent has been violated because you didn't agree to that beforehand. And still think is a phenomenon that's been happening for years. I remember learning about it like as an undergrad, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is wild that people are actually doing this. And it's really about power and control when it boils down to it, like, oh, I want to do what I want to do. Maybe I don't like the way the condom feels. Maybe, I want to ejaculate inside of you or anything like that and this is something that you didn't necessarily want. And it's a lot more serious than people may think it is, because someone does feel violated after something like that happens to them.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, lastly, it's just, can I withdraw my consent? And it's like, is that something that like, okay, like, I said yes, but then like, you know, I didn't like it, or I just, you know, don't feel comfortable. Is that something that you can do?
Absolutely. So consent can be withdrawn at any time during the sexual act. And some people are like, well, it's already inside and we already started and like we got to keep going. No, consent can be withdrawn at any time. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling stressed, you don't like it, it doesn't feel good, your consent can be withdrawn. And I always tell folks that if somebody's uncomfortable having sex, the best thing you can do is stop and take a deep breath and, just wait a second. And people are like, well, Jazz, it's hard because I'm hot and bothered, or this is happening, and this, and it's like, yeah, but you don't want to hurt this other person, right? And maybe they just don't like having sex with you, and yeah, rejection hurts, but you'll be okay. And so even with that, consent can always be withdrawn at any time. And that's why we always tell folks to check in with their partners and pay attention and watch and that type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, is there anything you would like to add, or, you know,
So I guess the last thing that I would like to add is we hope that no one experiences sexual assault, dating, or domestic violence or stalking while they're here in Aggie Land. But we do have different campus and on campus and off campus resources. So the Office of Health Promotion, we host all of our awareness months here on campus. And so if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to us. You can follow our Instagram at TAMU Health Promotion. Also, we have Green Dot and Stand Up trainings that we offer for students, faculty, and staff. If that's something that you're interested in to learn more on how to support survivors of dating and domestic violence or how to prevent those things from happening. And in our community, we have our Sexual Assault Resource Center, which is a great resource if you experience sexual assault. And then we also have Twin City Mission or Phoebe's Home, which is our local domestic violence shelter. And they do work with the trans community as well. So if you need that resource, they are there for you too. And so other than that, that's all I have. I just wanted to make sure I share resources.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and answering like these questions. I feel very strongly about, like, you know, spreading this information, especially about consent. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. For those of you that are still here, don't forget to join our newsletter, and this will be up on our YouTube channel in case you missed it, and it will also be on our Instagram account on our IGTV. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on Thursday.